40 minutes in front of these drivers and plenty of opportunities.
But yes, a bit of point of contention, but it doesn't matter now, Ron. We're going green.
Drivers are on their way, and it's a rather convincing start from Joyner. He's going to be leading them complicated. Heading through this bend, it tightens up though before they head off into turn number 8. This is going to be very close.
What is that?
Based off the fact you sound like you sat on a cold toilet seat there, Adam, but that was insane. And Kramer was mega sideways coming out of turn number 8.
That one got me. That one got me.
Look at this conga line. Dun 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 dun. Who was it that came up for the? Oh, that was Tolo coming in.
Most racing drivers don't improve because they don't know exactly what to fix. If you relate to that, this ad is for you. Because I have an online course that solves that. It's called the Motor Racing Checklist. 50 structured lessons that show you exactly how to improve your technique. You stop guessing and you start following a professional system. And if you don't improve in 28 days, you get your money back. This is how 11,000 of our student drivers make progress. Now it's your turn.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 9 of this season, coming to you today from Silverstone. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, we're really getting to crunch time from this season. These drivers are feeling the burn, they're feeling the pressure, and they're feeling a little bit anxious heading into a bull ring of a racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. This little national configuration is very, very short, very quick laps, but going to be very fast because there's not really a lot of hard corners that you're going to have to worry about. So it's going to be a very, very exciting race, and it's going to be, maybe ends up being a little bit of a draft fest before this is all said and done.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't rule that out. You don't really think of Silverstone usually as a draft track, but once you come out of turn number 1, you have a pretty good flat-out blast down into, it's just maggots. We lost Beckett's, unfortunately. Then heading down the Wellington straightaway, and of course that start-finish straightaway, going to be some good drafting opportunities for these race cars. I've always wondered how the other Formula cars in the Weekend Warriors, well, the Formula Vs, would be able to handle a race here at this track, but nonetheless, the Formula Fords can still put on some pretty good racing, expecting just about the same that we usually get week in and week out from this series. We haven't had a bad race up to this point, really, and we have some pretty awesome tracks to look forward to throughout the rest of this season. Tracks like Oulton Park, Thruxton, and Donington Park to bring the season to a close. Yes, we do have a lot of British tracks, but to those who are maybe feeling a bit UK'd out, so to speak, with the amount of British tracks we have been visiting, I have some good news about Season 3's schedule. Motorsports UK, who have really dictated what the season schedule looks like here in the Formula Ford official series, which is, of course, the basis for our schedule here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, deciding to lay back a little bit. So we're going to have some more international representation when it comes to racetracks over the coming seasons. But nonetheless, Charles, it's been a great season up to this point. I have a feeling that this round here at Silverstone, it's going to be a tough one. Very short laps here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those little quick circuits. It's going to be probably lots of drafting and maybe a few updates. And so as we're getting some prompts there in my ear, so we'll go through for the challenges for this week. Use the draft to your benefit, not just in keeping up with the cars in front, but also maybe doing a little bit of fuel saving. This may end up being a fuel mileage race. Also know your track limits. Again, this is kind of an offshoot configuration. There's a lot of little hidden tints in here and there, and there's also some slowdowns on the outer edges that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So you got to be very careful and know where to place your car. Finally, obviously, keep up the momentum. This is a very fast lap, and so you don't want to have any little half spins or missed apexes. You want to keep that momentum going forward. That's going to give you a chance for a really good finish.
Yeah, thank you very much for those. The Charlie's challenges, I think, is going over rather well at this point in this season. Really getting a good view as to how these races are going to be before we even get the checkered flag in these 20-minute long qualifying sessions, which we are in the midst of at the present moment. I think, considering we do have a couple of minutes left to go, we'll probably take a quick look at the championship points. I'm going to stall out here for a little bit because for some reason my graphics are not working from my end. So we'll get those championship points up. And Charles, I think I'll have to take them for me.
Yeah, we'll take a little bit of this here. Spec 1 championship standing. Sean Doyle in the lead, 571 points. Got himself a nice 63-point margin over Felix Samoas. Rasmus Vore in third with 489. Only 1 point ahead of Daniel Tufts in fourth. Who's had some good runs of late with 488. And Juan Garcia rounds out your top five, and he's only 1 point ahead of Kevin Adrian in sixth. As we roll over to Spec 2, Dan Whitsack still leading Spec 2, having a great season. Paul Jackson in second, big margin of 70 points or so. Dustin Meaden in third, Fernando Afonso in fourth, and Fabian Singer in fifth. As we roll over to the Masters category, Antonio Reese just checked out. He's 103 points ahead of Jeff Wupker, having a tremendous year. Antonio's done such a great job since he's decided just to only run the Formula 4s this year or this season and skip the spec racers. Wupker again in second place. Jim Brewster hanging out there in third. Has a still pretty good margin over Alan DeGassis in fourth. And Stevie Ray rounds out your top five in Masters.
And thank you very much for that, Charles.
Yeah, no worries.
I've finally been able to get my graphics up and rolling, the power of a quick verbal threat to the developers at OBS. But as we're still in this qualifying session, let's do a quick little onboard lap with your current P5 qualifier and Masters leader Antonio Reese down into turn number 1. While the most synonymous corners in the world of British motorsports, that's turn number 1 of this national layout of Cops. Got this small little flat out list, which may not seem like much on the grand scheme of this whole track, but here on this national layout, it is a big run down into turn 2, licking the stamp and sending it off into maggots of turn number 3 through Aintree and now onto this Wellington straightaway, which is going to be a massive draft opportunity for these racers from the drop the green flag all the way through to the fall of the checkered. But this is a fantastic overtaking opportunity here. It's Brooklands, and as you can see with the number 73 of Pollard and the 31 of Felix Samoas getting some moves done there. Very easy to get an overtake done at that heavy braking zone. That's the left field of turn number 5 that we're running through right now. Only one more corner left to go. It is turn number 6 of Woodcut, which may not seem like too much of a challenge. If we were running in the rain, it would be really tough, but that is just enough to keep these drivers on their toes and round off a lap of Silverstone, an absolutely fantastic racetrack. And And one of the shortest tracks that we visited all season long, I think the only one that is shorter was probably one of the last times we were here in the UK at Knock Hill. So it's small little tracks that we've got, but still pretty good racing that can come out of them. And looking through the drivers in this qualifying session, Ian Joyner is your provisional pole sitter at a 1 minute .263. Mikey Pollard set to join him on the front row. Antonio Reese is your top qualifying Masters competitor, with Paul Jackson your top qualifier in Spec 2, with still about 2.5 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, absolutely. Still got a chance for another lap or two. Obviously, we're talking about a 1 minute lap, so get the cars around. You might get 3 if you can get to the start finish line in time. And it's just going to be. You can just see. I was kind of watching as you were walking through the onboard lap, and I'm just thinking, if it wasn't for like a corner like this right here, this is almost a right-handed oval. It's just almost nothing as far as braking is concerned for this race. Now there's some tight corners, but you can just see how much commitment you have to really maximize your lap time.
Yeah, when it comes to these Formula Ford cars as well, you just need to have that bravery to be able to head into some of these corners with full commitment, full speed, and really no wavering when it comes to your confidence. If you're a little bit unsure of yourself heading off through some of these turns, you're going to find yourself ending up in a grass patch or a gravel trap around some of these racetracks. So super important to have that confidence, super important to have the seat time as well, which is part of the reason why many of these drivers use these rather lengthy practice sessions that we have before this qualifying session that has only 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go on the clock. Joyner is still at the top. You can see these drivers forming a bit of a pack. As much as it may not be the most draft heavy car in the world, the draft doing some wonders around this racetrack, which is a bit of an oddity here in the FF Weekend Warriors.
Yeah, it really is. But these cars, obviously, we talk about the Super Sunday with the Formula Fords and the Spec Racers. Spec Racers obviously are draft monsters. These aren't the best, draft cars in the world, but they do produce enough draft that you can gain a couple of tenths over the course of the lap, especially if you're as close as, say, Ian Joyner is there with Felix Samoa's. You can just see the cars and their ability to just kind of accelerate out of the corner and close up behind the car in front. As we see Samoa's moving to the inside there of Antonio Reese. It's if you can get a couple of tenths and get a good clean lap here, you might move up a few positions here in the qualifying order, and that's going to help you out during the course of the race.
Going to help you out a little bit in this qualifying session too. These drivers are getting to the end of this session with just 15 seconds left to go on the clock. Ian Joyner's still the pace setter. He's not really involved in that Spec 1 championship battle, albeit really that Spec 1 championship class. You think of how it's usually a slam dunk when it comes to Spec 1, at least at this point in the season. Don't really have that going on. Sean Doyle has been quick, currently slotted in P6 at the present moment. Not really a consistent force here in the series, but consistent presence, I should say. Usually very fast whenever he does show up, but haven't seen him week in and week out, at least as far as my memory goes by, which you should probably take that with a grain of salt. But right now, he finds himself involved in a very good championship situation. If he can put in some good results right towards the end of the season and remain consistent, he may be the one getting the championship at the end of the season, which will be a very good result for him. Jeff Wubker having a pretty big improvement right towards the end. He goes up to P14. Antonio Riso still the pace setter. He nearly won the race overall last time out at Snetterton, and based off the fact he's qualified in 5th, let's see if he jumps up at the end of this session. He does not, remaining in P5, but Antonio Reese just quick after quick, week after week.
Yeah, for sure. Batonio is doing a tremendous job this year. And I kind of mentioned it earlier. He's kind of, normally was one of those that comes out and runs both races on Sunday. He said, you know what, I'm just going to focus on Formula 4 this year. And it's really paid off for him. He's cruising in the Masters class, and he's competing and he's contending for race wins every week. So it's great to see Antonio really, really focused in and having a great season.
Quick after quick, week after week. I may have to add that to my own personal collection of quotes. It's not the dumbest thing that I've said on the air. It's not even the dumbest thing I've said on the air this weekend. But with that qualifying session in our rearview mirror, we're going to hear from a fantastic partner we've had for the second half of the season, that being Almeida Racing Academy.
6 years ago, this was my simulator. Now, I'm a Radical US champion and IMSA driver. My technique in the simulator is what brought me here. Now, I created the Almeida Racing Academy, a place where members can participate in weekly broadcasted championship races, practice sessions, coaching workshops, and much more. We already have 11,000 students in the academy, and we're growing faster than ever. Our membership gives you everything you need every week to improve consistently and become a competitive driver. So join now as a member, and I will see you on track.
About to take the green flag here in a couple of moments' time, and to get this race up and rolling, let's take a look at the starting grid for round number 9 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. And it's Ian Joyner starting this race from the pole position. Mikey Pollard set to join him on that front row. We have Richard Harwood in the number 28 car set to start this race in third, next to Edward Buchanan in fourth. In P5 is going to be your top qualifying Masters competitor of Antonio Reese. Next to Sean Doyle, your championship leader in the number 74, Felix Samoa. Will start behind those two in 7th, alongside Daniel Tufts in 8th. Andrew Hurds will start this race in 9th, with Kevin Adrian rounding out our top 10.
Yep, Michael McConnell starts in 11th. Peter Maddox starts in P12. Paul Jackson in 13th, next to Dan Witzak. That's the Spec 2 battle for today. In 14th, Jeff Wubker in 15th. Stevie Ray in 16th. Michael Nelson 17th. Andrew Love 18th. Adam Bradshaw 19th. And Jeff Jacobson rounds out your top 20. Philip Fernandez came into the session, looks like he's been dropped by iRacing, so connection issue, and I don't think he's rejoined, so I don't think he's going to be on the grid.
Still 20 drivers set to grab the green flag here in the not too far off future at Silverstone. This track is short at 1.64 miles and 6 turns. It's a fast ride here. These drivers are going to be averaging some pretty quick speeds around this racetrack. And when we talk about the fact that this is race number 9 of this championship, you also have to start thinking about that championship situation as well. More on that in a little bit, but I think we'll circle back and talk about the sponsor that we've had for the second half of this season. And we would like to thank Almeida Racing Academy and all of the folks behind the scenes, including Sulio Almeida and the rest of his crew, for sponsoring this series in the second half of Season 2 of 2025. Really, without him, without all the wonderful sponsors we have in the Weekend Warriors world, this racing action and these broadcasts would simply not be possible. But Charles, before we grab the green, I'm going to throw something out there. I think the championship permutations that these drivers find themselves in is probably going to be the biggest stress causer for these competitors today. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously you want to have as great of a race as you possibly can, get as many points as possible. But everybody's thinking the same thing. They're going out to try and get to the front of the field, and so it's going to make it a very challenging race as we see them lining up here, getting ready to start. And so we'll see what happens. It's obviously this first lap's going to be critical. You got to get the tires up to temp and make sure that you get into those corners successfully. And side-by-side racing is just going to invite more drama. So let's see if we can get lined up in a single file line.
Yeah, let's see how quickly these drivers can settle the race down. We also have to think about those pit stops as well. With a rather challenging pit entry and exit around this track, going to be rather tough for these competitors here today. But ready to get things up and rolling from the 9th race of this championship. Waiting for that green flag to come out, which it has now, and the drivers are on their way. That's a fantastic start for Ian Joyner. He will try and lead them comfortably, heading off into turn number 1. Some side-by-side battling and some hustling going on a little bit farther in the back. Look at Felix and Moaz trying to go side by side down into turn number 1 with himself and Sean Doyle. That has some championship implications when it comes to that battle. But Ian Joyner getting off to an absolutely dream start. He's grabbed a lot of poles. He enters the season as a reigning champion after missing out on the first half. It's really not going to come up his way when it comes to that Spec 1 championship battle. He's out here for wins. He's out for glory. And with a start like that, he may be able to do it yet again here at Silverstone.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just out here trying to get race wins, and he's done a great job. I think he's pretty close to winning every time he's been out on the track. So no surprise that he's already in the lead. Pollard and Harwood just close behind, and so it's still early days yet, and we'll get through this first lap here. Looks like everybody's made it through safely, so had a good start to this race.
And a very clean start for these drivers up and down the grid. No one really running into some difficulties. Knowing my luck, though, this will be the time that someone gets struck by a falling anvil. Joyner leads the first lap in front of Mikey Pollard, who's in front of Richard Harwood. Antonio Reese making up a spot as side-by-side racing going on involving Sean Doyle and Daniel Tufts. Tuff was involved in some of the most incredible action last time out at Snetterton. Had a massive save coming out of turn number 3, which you can take a look at by taking a look at the YouTube shorts here on the Slow Motion Broadcasting YouTube channel. Proceeded to have a spin a couple of corners later, and then was at the epicenter of some fantastic 3-wide racing action. Doesn't matter where he is, Daniel Tufts is always going to bring the thunder.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's had a really great race last week at Snetterton, and so we'll see what he does here today. You know, it's still early here, but it looks like everybody's kind of getting settled in. Buchanan's dropped down a spot. Antonio Reese is up to 4th. But so far, pretty standard. It looks like it's just a little draft train started here, and we're going to see if how long it's going to take for somebody to get out and start making moves.
Start to see these drivers maybe dance around the racetrack a little bit, try and get some moves done on their competitors. For now, though, they've settled into a groove, and I think that's a good strategy to do at a race like this with very short lap times. It feels like this race can drag on forever. Don't want to get caught up in the red mist early on, but look at that! Ooh. Holy cow! That could have ended in tears down into maggots. That right there was Daniel Tufts trying to get a move done on Felix Samoas, and in all that, Sean Doyle slipped by the both of them with a sideways snap for Tufts down into turn number 3. Cooked it way too hardly down into the braking zone of that corner, and it's going to hurt himself and the number 31 of Felix Samoa. Sean Doyle going to say, hey, thank you very much. He'll take those 2 spots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say that, my experience here, obviously, with at this particular layout is with Porsche Cup, with some team drivers that would run this in the Carrera Cup event, and it's generally very much like this. It's just a long snake around the track, and it takes one guy to make a mistake, and that's when the action really kicks off. And I don't know if that's the one that's going to start things, but we'll see if that invites Felix to see if he can get a run and get his position back.
You can see riding on board with Samoas down into turn number 2 and 3 around this racetrack. It is so inviting to go for a move, but turn 3 tightens on you really badly. So if you think, okay, yeah, I can go for a move, then you're going to find yourself coming up blows with your competitor, and it will go about as poorly as things possibly could go around this racetrack. It's a peloton that we've got going on at the moment. We're waiting to see who's going to be the first to step out of line, maybe have a moment. Hey, that was a good save from Daniel Tufts to keep it going in a straight line, but if he spun, that probably would have divulged that part of the field into absolute pandemonium. At the front of the field, though, Ian Joyner is running comfortable in that number 8 car. I've talked about this throughout this broadcast, and I'll continue to talk about Ian Joyner, a very quick driver here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors world. Was your reigning champion, won it in season 1 of 2025. Already has 4 poles up to this point in the season in the Spec 1 category. As that's a moment heading through turn number 1, some backwards driving for, I believe, was that Philip Fernandez? Potentially, no, it was Jeff Wubker backwards as he exited turn number 1. I think it may have been himself and the Dane of Michael Nelson getting involved in all of that drama. Philip Fernandez may have gotten a piece of that action as well, but let's take a look at it here, Charles, as they headed their way down into Cops.
Yeah, we see a little battle up there with Stevie Ray and 240. Oh, there you go, just some wheel-to-wheel contact and this little iRacing glue. And shenanigans happen, and there goes Michael Nelson around. And so it looks like he's got suspension damage on the left front, so he's going to have to come in for an early stop and get that repaired. We're on board here with Jeff Jacobson, getting a good view of that. And it's like, hold the brakes there. I'm sure that's what Jeff's screaming at him right now, is hold your brakes, and please don't do that again. And but luckily, Jacobson was able to get around.
Yeah, code brown moment for sure for Jacobson. A tough break there for Michael Nelson. I believe he has brought that number 959 car back to pit lane, but because of the rules in this series, the fact that here in the Weekend Warriors you do get one fast repair, he's not going to be completely out of it, but he is definitely going to be feeling the burn rather early on. And with that incident, he will have to make another run through the pits between now and the checkered flag. Tough start for him in the 959 as Paul Jackson has also come into the pits in the 249. Now, contact being made, and up into the air goes Andrew Hurds through turn number 5 of Luffield. It was himself and Kevin Adrian coming to blows. Peter Maddox, I think, got a piece of that action as well. There you can see Maddox in the 927 car. He's gone for a spin. As you can see, gravel getting strewn all across the racetrack as they head their way through Luffield. That was a big amount of drama involving the Aussie of Peter Maddox. I think he was one of the last cars involved in all of this. It was side-by-side racing with Hurds and Adrian down into turn number 4 of Brooklands. You can see that got Adrian's getting a little bit offside and all that, trying to take a run on Samoa's, overshoots it into 5 as a half spin, and then Hurds with nothing to do.
No, nothing he could do there. And yeah, it was just Adrian just, tried to run a little alternate line through that section of corners and just lost the rear of the car. And Hurds just got caught up in it. So yeah, it is one of those things. And you mentioned the fast repair. We had Paul Jackson also, who was involved in that first incident, came in, got his car repaired, got his fuel on board, and maybe because of the way the draft is working here, maybe an undercut's not necessarily a bad thing. Those cars are coming out. Well, actually, there's a pretty good gap between them. They're going to come out and be able to run their line, their pace. And maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that we'll see a couple of, because this is such a fast and short lap, then maybe we'll have a couple of drivers come in and try to undercut and try and take advantage of maybe drafting back up through the field.
I was thinking along those same veins, Charles. I was thinking with the flat blast that we've got around this racetrack, heading down the start-finish straightaway out of turn number 1 and then down the Wellington straights. Obviously, the draft is going to be big in this race, which is saying something because these Formula Fords aren't necessarily the most draft-heavy race cars on the iRacing platform. But with the yang of the draft comes the yang of having some pretty good opportunities to do some good fuel saving around here. It's a tough track to overtake at, and with the incidents we've seen already in this race, especially down into Brooklands and Luffield, these drivers may decide to take the safe game and just save a lot of fuel in this first stint.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a bad call. You can see people like Antonio Reese, Ed Buchanan on the back of this 5-car draft at the front. Not really any reason to be going to jump out of line and try to make up a position when you could just sit back and sip the fuel. And maybe that makes your pit stop a couple of seconds shorter, and that's the key to getting by the cars that you're racing with.
So let's see if the strategy game is going to be the one that these drivers try and play. At the front of the field, though, it is a game of follow the leader, and that leader is Ian Joyner. He's still quick, just as personal best lap of the race last time by at a 1:07. So clearly, that number 8 car of Ian Joyner has some speed to contend with. And as much as he's got Mikey Pollard, who won last time at Snetterton, along with the likes of Richard Harwood, Antonio Reese, and Edward Buchanan, all of which who have had winning speed up to this point in the season, Ian Joyner, he has that reputation of being cool as a cucumber, being able to take the punches and just think, okay, you got moved on me, I'll still be able to win the race.
Yeah, and I think Joyner is he's good enough that he can ride up front and can still kind of dictate the pace and maybe doing a little bit of fuel saving on his own in the process. He's talked about it during our post-race interviews, where he's really kind of watching that fuel gauge to see how much he can take and how much fuel he's using and what he's going to need to do to make a short pit stop. So it wouldn't be surprised if he still comes out in front at the end of all this, as we see Nelson just can't quite handle it. Just too much speed coming through that corner. I've done that a few times myself. Luckily, there's plenty of runoff there, and he was able to get the car rejoined back safely.
See, as we saw at that moment from Nelson heading his way down into turn at number 4, it proves that these cars are rather difficult to drive. I personally love the Formula Fords. It's a car, it's like Marmite in an odd way. You either love it or you absolutely despise it with a burning passion. I'm part of the committee that absolutely loves driving this car. It reminds me of my kart in a very odd way. It reminds me of my karting days as Dan Witzak and Stevie Ray making the very early stop. Now, we usually see Stevie coming in for an early call, but Dan Witzak following him in suit, he must think, you know what, I have such a big gap in the championship, I may as well see what the series admin is cooking up.
Yeah, and I think maybe Dan's thinking, you know what, maybe that undercut's not a bad idea. Maybe we can try that today and see how that works. He's going to come out in the back, but as other cars come into pit, he's going to have some guys to race around with, and Stevie will hang in there with him as much as he can. Stevie, very, very obviously accomplished racer, and obviously our league admin, so we always talk nice about him. But to be fair, really nice guy.
Yeah, he is a very good guy, and we're not just saying that because we like job security. Here's a moment involving Jeff Jacobson in the 240 car heading his way down into turn number 2 and 3, and it was contact with himself. I believe that may have been Peter Maddox right behind him. I will look to see whether or not that was Peter Maddox. I think it may have potentially been. There's not too many red cars in this field, and Peter Maddox is one of those red cars. I think that may have been it. As Ian Joyner has come into the pits along with Kevin Adrian.
Ooh.
So rather early call from the driver, the number 8. Usually in this series, we wait until about 30 minutes in where we see most of the drivers come into the pits. Here, though, at this unique track, I think we're seeing the opposite.
I think you're right. I think it's okay. We know we got to go to the end, and I'm gonna go ahead and get my fuel stop done out of the way, and get back out there and just finish off this race. So a very interesting call to come. Normally, you don't see the leader come in first, so obviously he thinks there's a strategy there that's going to work for him.
It should be noted that some of the drivers up towards the north end of the field are rather quick, as you can see 2 more coming down the pits. That's Richard Harwood and Antonio Reese. They're going to give P2 to Edward Buchanan, who the time before this one actually set his fast lap of the race and the fast lap of the race, point blank period, at a 1:09.69. So clearly that car has got some speed. That 5 car has always been quick here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. And they got the season kicked off in rather good fashion with a Spec 1 pole. Since then, though, he has not been able to jump back up to the top qualifying spot in Spec 1, as yet to grab an overall race win this season. But hey, may end up being a good time to do it. He is quick, and Antonio Reese joining those drivers down the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had a couple of good runs, and he's shown some speed. And obviously today was just setting the fastest lap of the race. Obviously feels like he's got the pace today to contend for the win. So we're on board here with that's Jeff Wubker in the 909. He's trailing Fernandez and Peter Maddox, and it's good to see Fernandez. We wasn't sure he was going to be in the race today, but managed to get signed back in and back in the session. So we've got a pass for the virtual lead, I guess if you want to call it that. Is we've got Joyner coming out. Reese actually came out of the pits in front of him, so now it's now Ian Joyner has retaken that position.
And that right there is Ian Joyner to a T. Oh man, I lost out on the lead through the pit stops. Whatever shall I do? Oh, here's a good overtake down to turn number 4. It didn't look like Antonio Reese really fought that either. He's in a perfect spot when it comes to that Masters Class Championship battle, so he doesn't really see any point in fighting it too hard. As speaking of fighting hard, this is some 3-wide racing down into turn number 2 and 3 involving lots of cars. That's Jeff Wubker, you can see involved in that. Adam Bradshaw picking up some moves, and Philip Fernandez with a very nice looking race car. I don't know, maybe I'm just odd, but I like the color scheme on that car of Fernandez.
Oh no!
What is going on with Jeff Jacobson?
That was a straight line into the wall, maybe hardware failure. That's kind of what that looks like to me, like he just lost control, or lost his controls, I guess, if you want to say it that way, as we're coming down the straightaway here. And, yep, up on the curb, little risky, and, yep, it just kind of looks like that he has no control whatsoever, and it's straight line right into the barrier. That's very, very sad. So
yeah, that is.
I hate to see that.
That is super unfortunate. I gotta say though, from my trained eye looking at that, I think I did see some steering wheel movement in that potentially. So I have a feeling that I'm not a sim racing equipment expert, but I think his give a damn may have broke there.
It is very possible. That happens a lot more than people realize. It's and it could be, obviously there's different things. A lot of times what you'd see is a hard left turn when some of these sim rigs fail, and you just turn left and keep going left until you can't go left anymore, until you hit something. As we're back on board here with Joyner and Reese, and then they've got ahead of Hardwood. I was going to say that Hardwood actually came out in front of him. He came in the same time as Antonio Reese and actually came out earlier than they did, because he was about a second and a half quicker on his pit stop. So maybe he's feeling like, oh, maybe I didn't put enough gas in the car, because I think that might have been maybe a fuel strategy that just now he's thinking maybe it's not going to work out. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But that battle is still the top three, or the three front runners who have pitted, and we still got Pollard and Buchanan up front.
And they are maybe going to go for the usual strategy that we see here in these Weekend Warriors races. Wait until probably, 28 minutes into this race with 12 left on the clock and just say, you know what, we're now coming into the pits. They're still showing some pretty good speed at the front of the field, it must be said, tracking high 1 minutes, which is just about the same pace that really everybody is showing around this racetrack. When it comes to something like this, we talked about a little bit earlier on, talking about how this track is sort of similar to another track that we visited in the United Kingdom, that being Scotland's Knock Hill earlier on this season. How that track was, I think, even shorter than this when it comes to lap times, but that track has far more corners. It's far more technical. Here, on the other hand, you've got a rather flat and rather convincing turn number 1 of Cops. Then you head your way off into turn number 2. The hardest part about this is getting your braking right down into turn number 3. Then Brooklands, lots of people have experience running around there. Luffield, lots of people have experience running around there. And then Woodcote, turn number 6, the final corner around this track. You're going flat out through there. So we are seeing here at this race a rather small gap between the slowest driver in the field and the quickest.
Yeah, absolutely. The draft is part of that, and it's just the lap times just makes everything more condensed. Even but a 10-second lead is still pretty powerful here. And we're 18 minutes into this race, and we haven't said the magic words when it comes to Silverstone. Did you know this was an old World War II air base? Which is a running joke in our racing. So it's something we have to mention. I think it's part of the contract.
Man, the flatness of the track, I wonder what it may have been in a past time. It's that reminds me of a bit on Top Gear. They were talking about Murray Walker, God rest his soul, returning to the commentary booth for the BBC back in, I think, 2008 or 2009. And I forget whether it was Jeremy Clarkson or Richard Hammond did an impression of Murray Walker saying, "There were all trees here when I was a young lad." So that's the only thing I think of when it comes to Silverstone many moons ago. And if anyone wants a good little bit of Silverstone history, I should probably share this on the XMS IndyCar Championship Series broadcast, which you can catch on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. There used to be an IndyCar race here one time back in 1978, and it was coupled with another race at Brands Hatch the same year. There is no footage of that race, and everyone calls me a liar when I say it, which that could lead me off into another story as we take a look at the moment for Bradshaw. But hey, IndyCar ran here many moons ago. I wonder how an IndyCar race around here would be nowadays. That would be a riot.
It would be kind of crazy, but it would be one of those IndyCar Formula One not wanting to compare notes. So my guess is the Formula One cars would be a little bit quicker here, just because of the flat cornering. Indy does not do downforce quite as well as Formula One does, to be fair. But they have more horsepower and they're faster. But the cornering is going to catch a lot of folks out as they're running the Indy cars around here. And 1978 seems like that would be Jackie Stewart winning car for IndyCar. I think he was in Indy by that point.
I believe at that point in time, he had retired from racing in 1973, and I think he was in Indy, albeit commentating the races. Which,
there you go.
He was a very good commentator.
He was. I really enjoyed it.
And his hats as well. Fantastic hats that he used to wear. As Ian Joyner just set the fast lap of the race last time by in the number 8 car. He's still running in front of Antonio Reese. So clearly that 8 car is quick. And to share that story that I was going to share a little bit earlier on, and good time to pop up the story time with Ron graphic that you made a couple months ago, Charles. That was absolutely fantastic for the season finale of Ray Esports. So I talk about this occasionally on these broadcasts, but before I got into this broadcasting stuff, I had my own YouTube channel making IndyCar history videos. And for April 1st of 2022, I decided to make a video going over the career of a fake IndyCar driver that I completely made up by the name of Thor Buttocks. The humor was absolutely plentiful. And even though I was saying that, this guy Thor Buttocks was born in a fake town in Norway, he married a girl named Sarah Bellum. Even throughout the whole video, someone commented saying the reason why he figured out that it was a fake video and that none of it was actually real was the fact that there was an IndyCar race at Silverstone, which I find to be incredible because that was the only fact from that entire video.
Yeah, there you go. It just goes to show that, you know, some things in history are less well known than others. I wouldn't have guessed that there was an IndyCar race here. It doesn't surprise me, but you know, I wouldn't have guessed it because IndyCar, kind of like NASCAR, they don't really stray too far outside the United States, except you know, here and there occasionally. We could go back and talk about the 2 years of Suzuka in NASCAR. And of course now they've got a Mexico City race coming up this year, which I think I heard that one Mr. Daniel Ricciardo was going to be driving in.
Yeah, I saw that tweet as well, and I'm pretty sure it was from an account that's intentionally has a similar name to an actual legitimate publication. And it's just there to troll people. But
maybe
that would be cool to see Danny Rick in a NASCAR. I mean, he's a big Dale Earnhardt fan. That's part of the reason why he picked the number 3 when F1 decided to allow drivers to pick their own numbers in 2014. So that would be cool to see Danny Rick in a NASCAR Cup car. He'd probably get stuck with Trackhouse, which, you know, based off some of the performance they've had thus far this season, those cars are basically tin cans on wheels, which is a bit of a shame. But hey, I mean, it would be very similar to some of the equipment he's had to deal with in Formula One the last few seasons that he was running there.
That's true, as we see a pit stop here, and that is Michael McConnell coming in from 5th place. So he's going to come in and take a stop. We are getting a little further down here into the race, so that's our halfway pitter there, Mr. McConnell, with almost 23 minutes gone, 17 minutes to go, as we're back on board here with Felix Samoas and Daniel Tufts. Still battling up in that top 5, although they really haven't. They've been battling amongst themselves. They really haven't been up near the front of the group since they had that little issue with the little half spin in the corner and got kind of crossed up, and that's cost them some time. Then they just haven't been able to make that time up. The front runners are moving on in a hurry.
And as we are in the second half of this race, I gotta wonder where we're gonna see some more of these drivers make that call to come into the pits. It's very rare that you see such a strong divide when it comes to pit strategy, but harkening my mind back to the last time the Formula Ford Weekend Warrior Series ran here on the Silverstone National layout, all the way back in December of last year for the opening race of Season 1 of 2025. I think I remember this exact situation playing out there as well, so it's gotta be something around this racetrack that really lends itself to having these wild off-the-wall strategies. I think it may genuinely come down to that possibility to do a little bit of fuel saving.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's just because we talked about this as a pretty wide open lap. I think they're of the tracks we visited this season, this is probably the fastest lap that we've run, I think, during the course of the season, because there's a couple of corners here, but a lot of the corners are just a little bit of a lift, let the car breathe, or absolutely just flat out all the way through the corner anyway. So you can see how you can get this kind of a narrow entry and then a wide exit. There's plenty of room out there. Just hammer the throttle coming out of the corner and get that run down Wellington before you get into was it Brooklands, I think is that corner name. And so yeah, it's one of those that it's just kind of an offshoot little race, much like Knock Hill, except quite the opposite. Obviously, they're very short laps, but there's not really much difference other than the fact they both have some tarmac that you can race on. Knock Hill, obviously, very short, tight, twisty, lots of elevation. This wide open, flat, and just how hard can you push the pedal down?
Yeah, see how much you can bend the floor pan of your race car heading down some of the flat applets around this racetrack. And it brings me back to the Week 13 runoffs that we had at the end of last season when we were running the Formula Fords on the Monza Oval. That race, I mean, okay, maybe my ability to call oval races has gone better. I've been doing a lot more of them thus far this year in the months that have gone on since that race. But I remember doing that broadcast and basically my jaw being dropped down on the carpeted floor of my bedroom the whole time. I was like, what in the world are we witnessing? So maybe it's just me. I think these Formula Fords are the most fun to drive at the very quick tracks, albeit again, maybe a little bit biased. I talked about this a little bit earlier on about the reason why I like this car is because it reminds me of my karting days and heading through some of the braking zones around whatever track it may be, heading through, slamming on the brakes, banging down the gears as quickly as you can. It brings me back to running the shifter kart that I used to do. It's not as like violently quick in a Formula Ford, albeit again, iRacing, you're not getting the G-force and everything, but regardless, kind of has a very similar feeling in an odd way, albeit, I whacked my head too many times as a kid, so you can take whatever I just said with as many grains of salt as you want.
Yeah, absolutely. We're back on board here with Adam Brash. Oh, we just catch the spin. A little lock up there. Maybe had to hit the brakes a little harder than he wanted. Lost the rear of the car. Luckily, no contact, and he's able to rejoin. That's cost him about 5 or 6 seconds on the track, though. So he's, he's having a decent day. It wasn't the worst day in the world, and he's still running P2 in class, so still on board for a pretty good little points haul. But as we'll go back on board here, we'll catch him coming down here in the maggots, and just looks like I just overcooked it a little bit going into the corner, and nice job by everybody of paying attention and not making contact.
And that's going to bring Adam Bradshaw into the pits, along with Andrew Hurd. So these two drivers making that call to come into the pits. And let's see how that's going to work out for all of them. Here's Mikey Pollard still in the race lead, now at the 2.8 second gap between himself and Edward Buchanan. Pollard has been on fire as of recent, won the last round of the championship at Snetterton. And, this is going to be a rather festive stat. Thus far this season, we have had drivers just get back-to-back wins all the time. Felix Samoa's grabbed back-to-back wins in rounds number 1 and 2. Rasmus Fori followed up with back-to-back wins in races number 3 and 4 at Brands Hatch on the Red Bull Ring. Ian Joyner got 3 straight, breaking the trend. And as it stands presently, of course, barring the pit stops, which are obviously going to be a huge determining factor in how this race goes, Mikey Pollard would be able to get back-to-back wins. So that'd be a pretty good result from him to continue on that streak of no driver just having one race win and then not backing it up the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just sitting here looking at timing scoring, and it kind of looks like that it's going to be very, very close as we see Buchanan coming into the pits now.
There's Edward Buchanan. He's going to be joined in pit lane by Felix Samoa. Daniel Tuff's going to stay out for another lap along with Mikey Pollard. We are getting to that point in the race where we were expecting these drivers to come into the pits. So let's see how it'll work out for Buchanan, Samoa's, and now Andrew Love coming into the pits as well. Ian Joyner will be jumping up the running order. Here's Pollard heading his way through maggots onto the back straightaway right now. There's Tuff's about 7 seconds in tow. Some lap cars between those two in P1 and P2. Buchanan, Samoa's, Love still in pit lane. Ian Joyner about to overtake them here in a couple of moments. Gets past Love, sets his personal best lap of the race last time by to 1 minute .618. And there you can see sweeping around the outside, Ian Joyner going to jump into the podium spots as Antonio Reese going to get past as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so looking at Buchanan came out about 5 seconds behind Joyner. He was about 6 seconds or so as we're on board here with Tufts coming into the pits. He was about 6 seconds behind Pollard, I think, when he came in. So it's going to be very tight between Pollard and Joyner when Pollard finally comes in for his pit stop.
And when Mikey Pollard comes in, the complexion of this race is certainly going to change. Daniel Tuff's in pit lane. Let's see how he shakes out in that race car. He's certainly been quick, but will this strategy really work out for him is a question that I've got going on in my head. If Ian Joyner can get out in front of Mikey Pollard, this will be a pretty comfortable drive for him to the end of the race. Presently has a 4 second gap to the front of Antonio Reese's race car, and is going to jump in front of Daniel Tufts, who's now leaving his pit box, but he's out of the podium spots, going to drop outside of the top 5, I believe, as well. There's Antonio Reese heading his way out of turn number 1 right now. Daniel Tufts going to drop down to P7, going to get dropped right in the midst of this Hornet's Nest with himself, and that is Samoa's and Richard Harwood battling in front with, I believe that's Michael Nelson right in tow.
Yeah, absolutely. And here comes Pollard in for his pit stop, so we're about to find out. So let's see if he's going to be able to get his stop made and back out before Joyner gets around.
Here is Ian Joyner heading his way through turn number 4 of Brooklands. He's got the lap car of Peter Maddox right in front of him. Again, with these drivers, you don't necessarily need to jump out of the way immediately. So I wonder how this is going to help or potentially hurt Joyner and his chances of doing well in this race. Pollard still stopped in pit lane. He's exiting the pit stall right now. There he is on that pit lane speed line. He's going to have that shorter inside line, and even with cold tires, he may have a good shot to be able to take the race lead. He's slow on the inside. Joyner with the run coming out of turn number 1. It's going to be a side-by-side fight between these two with the lapped car of Maddox involved in all this. Joyner going to try and grab the race lead from Pollard. It's a drag race between these two coming out of Wellington. It'll be Joyner leading them onto this straightaway. But with that lapped car in front, Mikey Pollard still has a fantastic chance to pounce.
Yeah, absolutely. He came out right behind. It was a very good battle coming out of the pits for Pollard. And the lap car actually helped keep Joyner from using his momentum to kind of pull away a little bit. So that's kept them about 3/10 apart as we're on board here with Harwood. This battle between him, Samoas, and Daniel Tufts is continuing on now that Tufts has made his way through and out of the pits. He's jumped a position over Samoas.
We see some side-by-side racing involving Sean Doyle, your championship leader in the Spec 1 category, battling hard with Kevin Adrian. That's a battle for 8th, and they come to blows heading off through turn number 5, and that could have ended in tears with Michael McConnell coming to the scene of that accident with really nothing that he could have done. He avoided contact virtually by the skin of his teeth. We may have to take a look at a replay of all of that. Kevin Adrian maybe getting caught up by the iRacing glue, and let's take a look at it here, Charles. It was hard battling down to 5, and it went so wrong so quickly.
Yeah, it really did. As you see, it just looked like the 74 car got a little loose on the outside, tried to correct it a little bit, and just contact made between then. You can see a little net code working, yanking Adrian around backwards. So sad, unfortunate, but part of racing here in iRacing is you have to take some of those little sticky points and just kind of deal with them.
Well, that was definitely some janky physics for sure, but the last time I criticized iRacing, my iRacing didn't work for the next couple of days. I haven't been on an iRacing stream show since. I say that, I will come to regret that. Here's Mikey Pollard trying to get a move done on Joyner down into turn number 1. It's a side-by-side fight yet again between these two. Joyner has spent a lot of time at the pits. Pollard is only a couple laps out of it, and let's see how it'll work down into turn number 3 of Maggots. Pollard holding onto the inside line. Joyner trying to sweep around, keep that momentum rolling as they head onto the Wellington straightaway yet again in this race. Not a lot of time left on the clock. Not a lot of opportunities for these two drivers to settle this fight in a smooth and concise way. Joyner going to have a run. He's on the inside down into turn number 4. Pollard withstanding that fight for now. He's going to back out of it as they head their way off through turn number 4. But man, that could have ended in tears on so many occasions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great battle up front between those two cars, and they kept it clean, kept themselves off of each other, and reset. Pollard's going to look for another run. He's going to try it on the outside this time.
And it's a fight yet again down into turn number 1. Joyner holding off on that defensive inside line. Pollard maybe got to look to try and get the move done on corner exit. He keeps the momentum rolling. He has a run heading out of turn number 1 down into 2 and 3. Will this work for Pollard? Will it be a good defensive drive from Joyner? He's going to have to try and drive the widest race car in the world as they nearly come to blows coming out of turn number 3. This is a battle that I have a feeling is going to boil over soon if these drivers don't get it settled soon. You can see Pollard taking that aggressive line down the Wellington straightaway, leaving Joyner with basically no room on the inside, but he still races him clean down into turn number 4. Joyner not able to clear him on corner exit as here comes Pollard back on the inside line through turn number 5. And it's going to be a drag race between these two on corner exit down into turn number 1. They've gone side by side heading off through cops so many times in this race. It won't feel alien to them. It'll feel rather routine. Pollard will be on the inside. Joyner just barely gets that nose out in front. Who has the bravery licking the stamp and sending it down into the turn? Looks like Pollard has the speed midway through it, but Joyner going to have the run on corner exit down into 2 and 3 here in a couple of moments. Who's going to win at the battle last late breakers? Will it be Pollard on the inside, or is Joyner going to be able to sweep around and hold on to the race lead? They are still side by side. It's been a long side-by-side racing, and there's a matter of millimeters between the two of them heading onto the Wellington straightaway yet again. The lap car right behind them, Peter Maddox, enjoying this sight. This is a brilliant battle here with less than 5 minutes to go. Pollard on the outside, Joyner on the inside. They head their way off through Brooklands. It's deja vu to 1 lap ago. Pollard yet again alongside down into turn number 5. And they finally single file out after a lap and a half, but still not over yet.
No, and it looks like Joyner's going to come to the inside and try and make that spot back up, and just takes a tight run through Cops, and they're going to go side by side again. Was this lap 3? We're going to go be side by side for these two cars?
Yeah, about that. Lap 3, lap 4, lap 36. They've been battling tooth and nail ever since he came out of the pits, he being Mikey Pollard, and they're still battling hard into 2 and 3. Back on the inside line is Pollard. Stuck on the outside is Joyner through this tightening turn number 3. Really easy to have a battle end in pure unbridled disaster, but they've played a very smart game. They've been battling tooth and nail, but they've kept it clean thus far. Still have a little bit of time left to go in this race. Anything can happen between now and the checkered flag. If these two drivers come to blows, Edward Buchanan would be the one to pick up the pieces. They nearly touch again down into turn number 4. Pollard holding on to the race lead. He won last time out at Snetterton. Joyner, your reigning champion here on the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, looking to return to victory lane for the 4th time this season. Pollard getting very flirtatious with that gravel on the exit of turn 5, taking that shallow line through Woodcut of 6, and now trying to hold on to the inside down into turn 1 of Cops. Joyner's got the run though. He's got to try and sweep around the outside, keep that momentum rolling in the 6th, and try and hold it on. He doesn't pick up a slowdown on corner exit. He keeps it within the boundaries, but that's not enough.
Ooh,
look at that. They touch again down into turn number 3 and 4. These two have been battling tooth and nail, throwing everything, including the kitchen sink at each other. They touch again. That's the biggest touch they've had thus far. Pollard, Joyner coming to blows. That was nearly wheel-to-wheel contact. If it was, that would have been an absolute airplane collision heading onto the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love Joyner's line coming through Cops, or Maggots, I should say, as he finally gets in front of Pollard there. He's taken the curb, and I haven't seen anybody really taking that curb on the outside, but he's done it quite well.
As you can see, a side-by-side fight involving Richard Harwood and Felix Samoas. This has championship implications as well. Samoas looking to make up some moves as Sean Doyle on the number 74 cohort, who entered this race as a championship leader, mind you, in Spec 1, has not had a good turn of fortune here at Silverstone. But back up to this battle. This is another one going on involving Dan Witzak and Andrew Hurd. That's intense. I gotta feel bad for our producer, Mr. Guido Marzucchi, having to be a chameleon, looking at about 16 million different things at once. This battle at the front, though, is still nestled into my heart. That gap between these two and Edward Buchanan has diminished down to about 3.5 seconds. It'll still take a major swing from the Canadian of Buchanan to be able to catch up to these two. That, or it's going to take these two drivers crashing into each other as they head their way down into turn number 4 for the second to last time. The white flag going to be in the air. One more lap of racing action here at Silverstone. Ian Joyner is going to look to try and shake off Pollard like a bad case of the fleas. He has a good run coming out of turn number 5 down the start-finish straightaway for the last time in its entirety. That white flag's in the air, but Pollard, he has a run heading down this start-finish straightaway. Got to look for the inside down into turn number 1. Mikey Pollard is no stranger to attempting these maneuvers. They're both sideways. These cars are not driving as well as they did at the drop of the green flag, and you can see it as they battle hard. But Pollard alongside, they are tooth and nail, side to side, wheel to wheel, down into turn number 2 and 3 for the last time. Pollard looking to hold his own on the inside, but Joyner going to have the momentum heading onto the Wellington straightaway for the final time in this race. He keeps that momentum rolling. He has a slight amount of speed, but Pollard got to pick up the side draft off that race car. They touch again under the bridge. This is really starting to ramp up between these two. Joyner has the inside line, but Pollard is going to have the inside into Luffield unless Joyner shows him the door, which he did, but he gets a bad exit. He's going to leave a nose open for Mikey Pollard to maybe make it a fight to the line. Pollard runs wide. He goes off into the gravel. That may have sacrificed his run. He has the momentum to the start-finish line. It's a photo finish at the end of this race. Joyner wins it, but Mikey Pollard gave it everything at the end.
Wow, 600ths of a second between those two cars, and they were basically glued together for the last 10 minutes of the race. Fantastic racing by both Joyner and Pollard. As Buchanan comes in third, Reese is in fourth, wins the Masters class. And as we get the top 10 scrolling through, Kevin Adrian looks like he's going to be ninth. Looks like Dan Witzak's going to take it. Oh, no. Oh, Antonio's already finished, so he can slow down and take that. So great job. Dan Witzak does take Spec 2 with a 10th place overall. And just great driving by everybody. That was exactly what you kind of expect for a little fast track like this. Lots of drafts and some great side-by-side battles up front.
And that was titanic battling between Ian Joyner and Mikey Pollard. It is his 4th win of the season, but Joyner had to fight like hell to get it done. Bravo to Ian Joyner. Bravo to the both of them. I mean, it takes 2 to tango, and it takes 2 to give us a brilliant battle. They kept it clean, they kept it intense, and they threw everything at each other to try and get those moves done. Were there some touches? Oh, absolutely. They were battling hard. They were touching at a steady clip of about 110 miles an hour heading down some of the straightaways around this track, so they should be counting their lucky stars. They were able to make it to the checkered flag, but Joyner and Pollard, credit to the both of them, because they both made that battle incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. That was like I said, fantastic bit of driving. Oh, and we found a jump. We did find a jump, and then into the wall. So there we go. So,
that was Bradshaw. My word. Very lucky that we've got the tire barrier there. Otherwise, these drivers would hit that Armco and probably crash their simulators. They hit the wall so hard.
Yeah, they'd end up in Milton Keynes somewhere. But yeah, it's hard to find a jump on a flat track like this. So somebody did some good scouting to find that.
Yeah, just a small little hop, and you can see that small little bit of asphalt on the inside. That used to be the Grand Prix layout here a couple of years ago, but what a battle here at Silverstone. What a race. We're going to take a quick commercial break here once again from Almeida Racing Academy, the sponsor of this 2nd season of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, and we'll be right back to decompress after an amazing race here in Silverstone.
Most racing drivers don't improve because they don't know exactly what to fix. If you relate to that, this ad is for you. Because I have an online course that solves that. It's called the Motor Race Checklist. 50 structured lessons that show you exactly how to improve your technique. You stop guessing and you start following a professional system. And if you don't improve in 28 days, you get your money back. This is how 11,000 of our student drivers make progress. Now it's your turn.
Back again here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for the coverage of round number 9 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors at Silverstone. It was a slow burner, but when that temperature got cranked up, it got cranked up to the temperatures you'd only see in a volcano. That was fantastic. And let's take a look at the results at the end of this barn burner of a race here at Silverstone. Ian Joyner wins it when everything is said and done. That is his 4th win here this season. So well done to Joyner, and well done as well to Mikey Pollard. It is not back-to-back wins for him, but he should not hang his head low. That was absolutely amazing stuff with him, but Joyner just had the edge on him at the end of it all. Finishing in 3rd is going to be Edward Buchanan, a good result for the Canadian behind the wheel of the number 5. Antonio Reese finishes in 4th, and with the gap that he has in Masters, that basically seals the deal for Antonio when it comes to that Masters Class Championship battle. Finishing in 4th is Reese. Finishing in 5th is Felix Moaz. Daniel Tuff's finish is right behind him, P6. Sean Doyle gonna be a little bit disappointed with how things shook out for him here at Silverstone. Ends up in P7, a couple of spots behind his main championship rival of Felix Moaz. It's Michael McConnell, Kevin Adrian, and Dan Witzak, your Spec 2 winner, running out your first half of the field.
Yep. Stevie Ray finishes Masters P2, 11th overall. Andrew Hurds in 12th. Andrew Love in 13th. Philip Fernandez from the back of the grid up to 14th, our hard charger and Spec 2 P2. Richard Harwood in 15th. Peter Maddox in 16th. Adam Bradshaw 17th. Paul Jackson 18th, Jeff Webker 19th, Michael Nelson in 20th, and Jeff Jacobson with early crashing ends up 21st in the final results.
And so those are your results at the end of it all here at Silverstone. A barn burner of a race from start to finish. There's really no other word to describe it. And I can see some drivers joining us here in the interview waiting area. And I think I am going to start by having a chat with our winner, a man who's heart rate has probably not dipped below 160 beats per minute in the past 45 minutes of his life. But Ian Joyner now joining us here in the commentary booth. Ian, that was a titanic battle between yourself and Mikey Pollard. You want to give us your perspective in that battle?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Very different to the start of the race, I think it's fair to say. Because early on, I just didn't really know. Hadn't raced Mikey for a little while. Hadn't raced him here anyway in this track. So I wasn't really sure whether he's just holding back. I wasn't sure how hard he was trying. And so nothing was happening. And we know in these long races, people sitting behind can massively fuel save. So I kind of rolled the dice a bit and went for a really early stop. I thought I was watching our lap times and maybe pulling a 10th or so, but I had not a great pit stop. But I think Mike had a good stop, and then we came out wheel to wheel again, so it was going to be a race from there. And it must have been a couple of laps side by side. As always, it's kind of nice, great when you just to survive those, because it's so it can go wrong so fast, but also nice to come out on top. So yeah, thanks to Mikey for a great race.
Well, I think if you asked Charles and I's vocal cords, y'all probably spent the entirety of this race side by side. That was just absolutely brilliant. And as you mentioned, they're talking about the alternate strategies compared to some of the other races here from the FF Weekend Warriors. I want to ask you about whether or not this track is just conducive to having those rather off-the-wall strategies.
I don't know. I think the draft is so heavy. It depends whether you want to be in the draft or not, really. It's such a big group as well. And kind of anything could have happened, and then I don't know whether it would have been better or worse really. But it's probably easier having a one-on-one fight than four or five people. Because if the two in front start fighting, then you end up with other people coming through as well. So it was probably worked out well on this occasion. If I'd had a gap, I just would have run till the tank ran out. But I just wanted to be out of that pack. So in this case, yeah. But the pack were probably quite happy to sit there and when they could and feel safe.
But overall, man, that was absolutely fantastic. And I was joking in the commercial break that call to the finish and that battle between yourself and Mikey Pollard, that may end up in a commentator's demo reel for myself. So well done for giving me stuff that I can show to future employers, and just well done on giving us
Thanks, Ron. I look forward to watching it.
Yeah. Get to watch me on the Will Rogers Follies at some point in the not too far off future, but gonna be staying in the UK and heading to Alton Park in 1 week's time. So what are your thoughts heading into the 10th round of this championship?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Like I said, I don't think I'm mathematically in it, so just turning up and having fun. So hopefully about Alton, great track, bit trickier than this one. One of the nice things about this one is because it's so wide open. Although the draft brings you together, there's a lot of space to work with, so it could be a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot harder to drive that close at Alton, but Alton still tends to pull you together because of the draft as well. So definitely a tougher track to race on, but a lot of fun. So yeah, look forward to that.
Yeah, really looking forward to that race. Alton's just a fun track to drive around as well, so I'm sure you drivers out there on the racetrack are going to have some fun there. But Ian, thank you for joining us here on the commentary booth, and as usual, I'll let you give the thanks and shouts out before we let you go.
Yeah, thanks again to the league. Thanks again to you guys for the brilliant broadcast, and see you next time.
And we will certainly see you contending for your fifth win this season at Alton Park in 1 week's time. Ian, congratulations on the win, and thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you.
And that right there was Ian Joyner, and that was also the first time that I think in the history of iRacing broadcasting that the Will Rogers Follies, the old musical from the early 1990s, has been mentioned in the history of sim racing broadcasting. So with that squared away, Charles, I will let you have a chat with Batonio Reese, who's also going to be on the racing line on Tuesday.
Oh, cool. Antonio, let's bring Antonio in here. Antonio, P4 today, Masters class win again. Pretty dominant as far as your class victory, but I know that you're always kind of look to the front to see if you can get that overall win. But you had a good run, not quite enough today, but still a good overall result.
Hi, Charles. How are you? Yeah, good night, everyone. Yeah, it was not bad for overall. First of Mars. Could be first 2 times, but it didn't go that way. But anyway, maybe one day this guy is going to be slower for some reason and I can win the overall.
Well, I know one thing that kind of was curious is Joyner came in very early for his pit stop. And then I think you came in the lap after. Was that just kind of I got to do what he does to just kind of counter it, or were you really just not really thinking about it? Just think that was maybe the undercut was a better strategy today?
No, it's because my fuel program always fuel too much if I keep the car until the end. So it's always the ideal is when the pit window open to go to the pits to get the right amount of fuel for the race. And then I saw Jan going there, and I was thinking, okay, that's my chance to get some pit as well. Yeah.
Well, it worked out. Like I said, you end up with a P4, and it was a brilliant battle up front in front of you that actually closed the gap down between you and Buchanan in the front too. I think if it had gone another 5 minutes or so, you guys might have been in the mix for the win as well. But great job. We've got Oulton Park next week. For me, love that track. One of my favorite British tracks behind Brands. So what are your thoughts about next week's race?
Yeah, I love Oulton Park as well. It's one of my favorite tracks as well. So I think we're going to have a good fun. I hope. Cross fingers.
If nothing else, we know there's a couple of good jumps on the track, so we'll have some fun after the race, if nothing else, right?
All right. Yep. Yeah. Usually I bail out after the race finish. Usually I don't participate on those because my fuel is really almost cross.
Gone at the end of it. Yeah.
Out of fuel. Yeah. But
right,
I always watch the fun, the guys on the destruction derby.
Antonio, we'll see you next week, and I think if you haven't captured the championship for the Masters already, you're very, very close at this point. So congratulations again on your class victory, top 5 overall, and we'll see you next week. Oh, and let you give your thanks and shout outs. So
yeah, for the Steve Ray, my dear friend Steve Ray, my best shout out, and also for Sueli Almeida for the sponsor, and all the drivers, and you guys especially for the broadcasting. Is a lovely time every time I watch after the race, and for the drivers, all the community, Weekend Warriors, and the YouTube viewers. Hello guys, have a good time.
That's right. So Ron did say that you were going to be the guest on the Racing Line podcast this week. So are we going to see Antonio, or are we going to see Batonio?
Oh, it's not me. He's the Batonio.
It's a Batonio. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, that was something to tune in for. All right, thanks,
All right.
Antonio. We'll see you.
Thank
you
you,
next
me.
race.
Yeah,
All right.
take care.
And that right there was Antonio Reese, your Masters winner yet again here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors for Season 2 of 2025. Charles, this series officially breaks into double digits for the races next time out at Oulton Park. So that's going to be a real good one. That track never disappoints.
Yeah, it doesn't. I wonder, do we know what layout? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, that is
because
a
obviously,
good question.
Yeah, because obviously every layout has its own little intricacies that you have to worry about. But overall, Oulton Park, fantastic circuit. As like I said, it's my second favorite behind Brands Hatch. It always puts on good racing, and like I said, each little circuit is each little type that it has its own little idiosyncrasies that you have to worry about. So if we don't know what that is, that's fine. We'll get to enjoy it next week regardless. But it's a great track, and I think that it brings out the best in the drivers because it's a very technical circuit. Looking forward to it always.
Yeah, and according to the sheet that we're usually provided with, it just said international. But as I look through on the iRacing schedule for the Motorsports UK F1600 Trophy by Thrustmaster, not sponsored, although if they would send us money, we certainly would be opposed to that. It just says international, so I'm not sure if that would just add both chicanes in there. I guess if it was without the chicanes, it would specify that. So I believe we will be running on the international version with both of those chicanes, which talk about choke points there.
Yeah, for sure. That makes things much tighter, and it makes turns up the pucker factor.
And that is going to be a really good race to look forward to in 1 week's time here from round number 10 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, and a whole lot of racing action to look forward to just about every single day here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a very good reason to subscribe and gives you a good reason to stay tuned to the fact that later on we're going to have the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors running at the Hungaro Ring. My oh my, that is going to be a rather intriguing race with a pretty good season schedule to look forward to for the rest of the Weekend Warriors. So stay tuned here to Slow Motion Broadcasting so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But as for this broadcast today for round number 9 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors at Silverstone, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching this broadcast on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all for that Spec Racer Ford race later on this afternoon.